Let me begin by quoting, you called it the epigraph, I think. You find this in a lot of books, but rarely have I read one as striking as the one you've put in the front of your book. I'm going to read it. It's just 4 lines. For Romans in Rome's quarrel spared neither land nor gold, nor son, nor wife, nor limb, nor life, in the brave old days of old. And that's from Macaulay on the Roman Civil Wars. Maybe you could explain the relationship of that quote to the American Civil War and perhaps to the Battle of Shiloh in particular.
Well, I think it's generally acknowledged that civil wars are the most terrible of wars because you do pit brother against brother, friend against friend, and for some reason the animosity, I don't know why that is, but the animosity in civil wars becomes quite terrible. It certainly did in the American Civil War. And of course at Shiloh, it was one of the battles that did in fact pit brother against brother because you had many regiments from Kentucky and from Missouri who were both regiments in the Confederate Army and regiments in the Union Army. And there's just something particularly satanic almost about fighting your own kind, about eating your own dead, so to speak.
When Macaulay speaks here, sparing neither land nor gold, nor son nor wife, nor limb nor life, Shiloh, as I understand it, was the first time that Grant and Sherman understood that that's what this war was going to be like.
Yeah, I think that it certainly instructed them that. Because before Shiloh, I think everyone, just about everybody, assumed that there was going to be one great battle and that was going to end the war. And whether it was in the East or the West or both, and the events in the East and Shiloh in the West certainly demonstrated that this was not going to be so, that there were going to be many, many battles like Shiloh, and Shiloh was quite terrible. It was an enormous shock on the American public on both sides.
Yep. Shiloh was April 6th, if I remember, of 1862.
Yes.
And Antietam, which was just as bad and had certain geographical similarities on the battlefield, there were some major differences, was September 17th, May, June, July, August, 5 months later, 5 months and 10 days later. And these two battles were both of them were unlike anything Americans had ever seen in terms of casualties and just sheer horrificness.
Well, before Shiloh, the only major battle in the Civil War had been the Battle of First Bull Run or Manassas. And there were, I think, 4,500 casualties. And that was terrible to the American people on both sides. When it comes along Shiloh, there were 24,000 casualties. And people were horrified. They couldn't imagine that many, especially when you consider the relative population at that time. It would probably today translated, I'm just making a guess, into 200,000 casualties or more.
Right.
In one fight.
Right.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.